there is Mahaganapati, and there are different other individual Ganapatis.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, say, for example, it's the same thing that if you have a root and you have 4 different shoots come out of the root, they're different, but they're also the same because they're coming from the same root.
Or the banyan tree may be a...
The banyan tree, exactly. It's a really good example, which has been used again and again by various experts in this country when they're trying to explain this to people. So, let's just say that we have Mahaganapati. Mm-hmm. But Mahaganapati, let's take Maharashtra, where I lived for many years and where I'm very fond of still. In Maharashtra, Ganapati is a very important devata. And he's an important devata because, of course, the ground in Maharashtra is extremely hard. It's mostly the Deccan traps. It's mostly basalt. So in order to get the ground to work with you, you need somebody like Ganapati who is able to connect to that degree of tamas. Because he lives at Muladhara Stitos Nityam. He's always living at the Muladhara. But even in Maharashtra, we have the Ashtavinayaka, and then in Bombay we have the Siddhivinayaka, Prabhadevi, but we also have different Gana temples here and there. In Pune, we also have the Grama Devata Pune, which is Kasba Ganapati. Okay. And we also have Dagdusat Halwai Ganapati, which has become very famous and impossible to get darshan anymore. But it's still possible to get darshan at Kasba Ganapati, because it's still low-key, and they're very close to one another. They're like a 5-minute walk apart. So all of these are Ganapati. But I think you'll agree, if you or anybody who's been to Pune will agree, that Kasba Ganapati and Dagdusat Halwai are very different, even though they're 5 minutes walk apart. Well, how can they be different if they're the same thing? They're different because the people who created them, Kasba Ganapati is said to be Swayambhu. Okay. But Dagdusat Halwai Ganapati was created by Dagdusat Halwai, who was a Kushti Ladne Wale, a Pehlewan. And after he retired, as so many Pehlewans do, or did, he became a Halwai. He started making sweets. And this was, I am told, one of the Ganapatis that, in his family, when they started having in the Ganapati Utsav, you bring the Ganapati, you take care of him, and then you do Visarjan. They say that for whatever reason, he decided to keep this Ganapati.
And not do a Visarjan. Okay.
And 50 years ago, I remember we would go down there, and it was very, very, he was kind of like in a wall, and they would open these doors, and you could go, and you could stand as long as you wanted to, and then at night, they would close the doors and they'd open them again. But then, for whatever reason, and I've heard different stories, but for whatever reason, he became very famous. And then people started coming to him. And the more the people came to him, the more they paid attention to him, the more prana went into there. And now more and more people started coming to him, and now he's much more well-known than Kasba Ganapati. But Kasba Ganapati is not worried about it because Kasba Ganapati has been there a lot longer. Both Dekliya, it's like people have come and gone, and so Kasba Ganapati is just sitting there and thinking, Aram se, I'm going to continue just being who I am. These are both Ganapati. But are they different or are they the same?
I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, they're Ganapati, so for me, it's just... My understanding so far has been it's Ganapati who's a giver, and maybe this is specifics of giving. So it could be a giver of a child, or giver of wealth or something, or removal, something like that. I never looked at them as different as such.
Right, but that's the question. So, okay, there's this concept of Ganapati. People go because they have some kind of urras, they have some kind of agenda. Yes. Oh, Ganapati, look, I brought you some modak, I brought you some agarbati, so please,
give me so and so.
Yeah. Give me everything I want. But so So who are we talking to? Let's just say that, Mr. whoever goes there, Ms. and Mr. and Mrs. whoever go there,
Yeah.
and Mr. and Mrs. whoever have a long checklist. You mara beta ka nokri, beti ka shadi, वगैरह वगैरह, or
Peat dard or whatever
yeah,
else.
exactly.
Sure.
So they've all gone. They've gone there. They're talking to Ganapati. Who are they talking to?
I mean, at the root, they're talking to Mahaganapati.
At the root, they're talking to Mahaganapati.
Yeah.
But Mahaganapati he's the root of everything. But Mahaganapati is much more subtle than each of these individual
And very
Ganapatis.
hard to access, I'm assuming.
Because it's much more subtle. You and I are not so subtle.
Yeah.
If you're very subtle, if you're like Guru Maharaj, then you can talk to whoever you want to in the astral world. But if you can't talk to somebody in the astral world directly, that's why you go to one of these shoots, one of these things that have come from the root. So Mahaganapati is the big root, and little things are coming down from there, and one goes to Kasba Ganapati, one goes to Tayur Chintamani, who is also a dear favorite of mine, not far from Pune, one of the Ashtavinayaka. And so those are manifestations of that Mahaganapati in specific locations. They're being manifested by specific people. They're being interacted with by specific people. And that, as they get interacted, they are evolving in a particular way according to the way that those people are interacting with those devatas.
My original question, how do I, put the story of Shiva beheading his son and then putting the head of an elephant on top? So one thing you said that in this sloka there is a mango, but it's subtle. It's not as gross as it is here in the Mrityu Loka. So I'm guessing then that perhaps an elephant in a subtle form exists in another loka, in another dimension.
But it may not look like an elephant.
Okay.
It looks like we see something that looks like an elephant down here.
Mm-hmm.
But that story of the blind man and the elephant,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So an elephant looks, it's like it's like a long tube. No, an elephant is like a wall. No, an elephant is like a snake.
So Shiva could have beheaded something else which to us looks like an elephant.
Again, what does behead mean?
Okay, I don't know.
So,
maybe.
and also, definitely, none of this is easy to explain.
No.
So let's say that you sit down and you would like to have sakshatkar, you would like to have darshan of Ganapati. And if you want to do that, you should start focusing on one image of Ganapati. Let's just say you start focusing on Dagdu Seth. Though so many people are focusing on him, that may take you longer. Maybe instead you focus on Kasba Ganapati. And you focus, and how long it's going to take, we don't know. We don't know because we don't know how long it's going to take you to generate the Shakti that will be necessary to have darshan. But as Sri Vimalananda pointed out, when you were doing a sadhana of a devata, the first thing that will happen, almost always, nothing is a guarantee. Sometimes you, for some reason, might directly go to the devata. But usually what will happen is, because you have been doing this sadhana, you will, and if you get sakshatkar, if you get a darshan, you'll have darshan of the image that you have been focusing on. But he said that what you've done is you have brought that image to life inside your subtle body. And that image is it's like a connection between you and what Ganapati and the big reality of Ganapati. The reality of Ganapati that is in a different dimension, the reality of Ganapati that is not limited by all of the limitations we have for perceiving things. So he said the most likely thing is, first, you've been worshiping you're going to have sakshatkar of it, and that is the point where many people stop. But that's the point where you should understand that because I brought it to life now is the point that working with it, I can go to what Ganapati really is. Because Ganapati is not limited by one form. Because Ganapati, we have, even just in Maharashtra, we have 8 forms in the Ashtavinayaka, and we have, we have all kinds of Ganapatis, but they're all Ganapati. So you have selected one form because you want to have vision of it. You have a vision of it, but that vision you're having, if it's a real vision, it's because you are perceiving it because you've brought it to
Correct.
to life inside you.
And that perhaps answers my question around why do different cultures around the world have different deities.